12 in the can, and each one more important than the last. In to assess the playoff picture, that's Jonathan Jones, Bryant McFadden, Emory Hunt, Joe Musso, your host. And fellas, for the first time in some time, a new team sitting at number 1 in the NFC. The Los Angeles Rams with the win, the Philadelphia Eagles with the loss. Some trading places here, Mac, as we assess those two sides right now, and you sort of power rank in your mind through 12 weeks the strength of the NFC. How far is that berth in your eyes between LA and everybody else?
I think there's a significant gap in terms of separation with the Rams and the rest of the NFC in terms of playoff contention because of their balance and how well their quarterback is playing in Matthew Stafford. Once again, an outstanding MVP-like performance from Matthew Stafford. Defensively, that front has been tremendous, and because of their success in the front, it has allowed the guys in the secondary to play lights out also. Not to mention their head coach in Sean McVay. I think he's the best head coach in the NFC currently. I think he's been able to do more with less, but this year they have talent. This might be one of the more talented teams we've seen from Sean McVay, with Sean McVay out in the Rams in years past. So when you factor all of that into the equation for me, I think there's a significant gap between the Rams and the rest of the NFC.
Emory, in an effort to close that gap or get back to that mantle that they've established for so long now, Philadelphia, we talked a little bit earlier in the day about a wake-up call required. Does something like this sort of change, maybe serve as the smelling salts to say, hey, fellas, execution needs to ramp back up to that level that we have established?
It has to, because I think the difference between the Rams and Eagles right now, and also the Bears, who I had as the number 2 seed going into the season, is consistency. That's the difference to me when we're talking about why the Rams are clear-cut number 1 in the NFC. They are the most consistent on both sides of the ball. The Eagles, this week it's the offense, next week it's the defense. Rarely is it, together at the same time. And I know people will look at that and say, well, they beat the Rams. Yeah, but you kind of look at how they beat the Rams and what have they done since then. The Rams are the most consistent. The Eagles have to drum up that consistency in order for us to respect that, like we did last year when we was like clear-cut, nobody's beating Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, the fact is they did beat the Rams. And the fact is that the Eagles did beat the Rams in the playoffs last time. And so we don't have to kind of play these hypotheticals, right? Like, oh boy, if the Rams see the Eagles again in the playoffs, what's going to happen? We've now seen it twice. And the Eagles get it done. Look, I'm not saying that it absolutely happens a third time, but right now, if you have the Rams and the Eagles playing in the NFC Championship game, that game is going to be in Inglewood, California. That game is going to be overtaken in the stands by Philadelphia Eagles fans. And so that will be, at best, a neutral site game for the LA Rams against a team that very clearly has their number. The LA Rams, when you look at their record the last 2 years against every team that is not based in Philadelphia, it's really good. And when you look at them against NFL teams that happen to be based in Philadelphia, they're winless. And so that is the one team, while I agree with all of you, that if you just roll the football out there and you say, who's the best team in the NFC right now? I would say the Rams. Their kryptonite, though, is the Eagles.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out as we assess 1 to 2, but we will get a very clear data point on 2 versus 3 in the NFC with that Black Friday game coming between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Chicago Bears. As someone who has been mired in the recent history and the last 35 years of the Chicago Bears, interesting to see them at that position as well. I want to take us to the back end of this NFC playoff picture because a new and very interesting entrant in the Dallas Cowboys making their case following that come-from-behind win, Emory, over the Philadelphia Eagles. Not really a whole lot of room for wobble at this point, and that 21-point deficit looked like it might spell the season. What did this Sunday mean to Dallas, and how do you project them moving forward?
This was a huge win for Dallas because we saw them get it done in an adverse situation, a game that the Cowboys would have normally lost. I mean, you talk about down 21-0, turn the ball over at crazy, inopportune times, missing field goals, but all of that is the reason why they got back in the ball game and also subsequently won the game. So when we know their offense is great, we know their defense is what it is, and we know they have a great returner in Cavante Turpin. We know they have a great kicker as well. So going into this back into the schedule, they're playing better defense each week. They have good special teams. They have an offense that can score. All of that screams the Cowboys are trying to find their sea level, and they're both balanced now, and they have the confidence of beating Philadelphia.
It's a great point. The offense has been this. They've established a certain standard this year. Mac, the defense is coming along, and that's really where this real belief comes from.
That's the most encouraging thing that we watch with the Dallas Cowboys, fighting from behind to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, is they finally learned how to win. they've been learning how to lose ball games, right? Against teams that we felt like they should beat, a la the Arizona Cardinals and at that time the Carolina Panthers. But in that matchup against the Eagles, they found a way to win, and it was solely about their defense keeping them afloat until the offense came to the party. And that's the most scary thing about the Dallas Cowboys. If they can get into the playoffs, we know they have a high-level championship caliber offense. But if the defense can just be a serviceable unit, you don't have to be lights out and be the monsters of the midway or the steel curtain. Just be a serviceable unit. You can do numbers. And when you look at their schedule, guys, I mean, the next 3-game stretch for me, realistically speaking, I think worst case scenario, they need to be 2-1. Worst case scenario. Ideally, you want to be 3-0 in that 3-game stretch, but that's a tough 2 coming out the gate with Kansas City and Detroit. But if they can be 2-1, Joe, the rest of the way, I think they still have a legit chance to get into the playoffs.
The problem is that one could be the only one. There is literally no room to wiggle in this NFC Wild Card picture. Is this something real, or when you start doing the math, a JoJo special? No, it's just too little too late.
Yeah, it's hard because when you consider it, they're not going to win the division, right? The Eagles are still going to win the division. I think we all believe that.
Correct.
And so now you're fighting for a wild card spot. Well, one wild card spot is going to go to an NFC West team, at least one, right? I think we also believe that at least one is going to go to an NFC North team, right? So now you have one wild card spot, and you are competing with some collection of Seahawks, Niners, Lions, and then you are there at the
Panthers.
Cowboys. Panthers, right? But there's going to be
Packers, Bears, depending on how that matriculates over the back end of the schedule.
So you say worst case scenario 2-1. You know, I think for the psyche of this team, that one better not be Thursday against the Kansas City Chiefs. That is a huge, huge game for both of these teams, right? Because you want to start getting the ball rolling, right? It's a short week. It's going to be difficult. Everyone's watching you. You want to get the ball rolling going into December. If you lose that game and you're looking at your playoff odds and everybody else knows what's going on, that's going to hurt. So that game is significant, obviously for both teams, but also, of course, for both playoff pictures.
All right, let's transition to the AFC side here because this is going to put the Wild in wild card. I think in the business world, they call it churn. We might be set for a good amount of churn in those final 3 seeds in the AFC. When you look at those in the hunt right now, JJ, you look at those in the picture and what could happen at the tops of divisions, what team interests you the most, maybe outside looking in or inside that might be headed out?
I'll tell you what, the Houston Texans really interest me. And they interest me because this offense is starting to figure out who they are. And everyone, a couple games into the season, wanted to fire Nick Caley, the offensive coordinator. Said that this Frankenstein's monster of the Patriots and the Rams system that he had put together for C.J. Stroud clearly wasn't working. And now they've won 3 straight. And yes, they've done it without C.J. Stroud, whom they should be getting back. They've been doing it with Davis Mills. But most importantly, it's this defense that they have, where teams just can't score 17 points against them, right? And so if I'm looking at the guys who are in the hunt right now, I'm looking at a Texans team that still has an AFC South schedule ahead of them.
Literally hunting.
Hunting with what is almost by far the best defense in the NFL. We know that continues into January. They are a very, very scary team when you consider that this offense is finally figuring out who they are.
When you look at the Houston Texans, their schedule, process of elimination actually can help their case to get into a playoff spot, to JJ's point. I mean, you still got 2 games left against the Indianapolis Colts. You also have the Kansas City Chiefs. So when you factor in those teams are currently in the same seat potentially as the Houston Texans, I mean, if you can steal 2 from Kansas City, you go from potentially trying to get a wild card spot to winning the division because that division is still wide open. You know what I mean? Against Indy. So, and then of course you can kick some dirt on the Kansas City Chiefs because you guys are fighting for the same opportunity. And if their offense can just don't mess it up. That's all you need from their offense. Don't screw it up.
Yeah.
Your defense will do enough to keep you in positions to win.
You talk about doing enough, and you bring up the Kansas City Chiefs as we take a look at their home stretch right now, Mac. A massive victory here, obviously, against what was the top offense in the NFL. Defense showing up for them as well. What is the value of their big game experience as it is now officially playoff football starting this week?
They have value. They have the most big game value out of any team in the National Football League. But we just haven't seen that production show up like we've seen in years past. It showed up a little bit against the Colts, good enough for them to win. But it doesn't get any easier for the Chiefs. You got to go to Dallas, who's playing inspired football. Then you got to get the Texans, who come to Arrowhead, but that defense has been outstanding. And then you got to get the Chargers, who already have one up on you, and they're fighting for a playoff spot, wild card spot. And then you got to get the Denver Broncos, the second to the last game of the season. By that time, that could be a really important game for Denver also.
For seeding purposes.
Yeah, for seeding purposes. So for Kansas City, if they get into the playoffs, you better believe they earned it. No one would give them anything. They wouldn't have received anything as a gift. They got to earn it. And they don't have any room for error. I know we talked about the Cowboys. That's why this game, Thursday, Thanksgiving, on CBS is so important. It feels like it's a playoff game right now for both teams because there's so much at stake.
You have made your bed, Kansas City. We'll see how they sleep in it. Emory Hunt zooming back out on this AFC playoff picture. Another franchise, another team of interest that has your eye right now that needs to make hay here over the next stretch?
Buffalo. I am so worried about Buffalo. And the reason why we talk about their defense all season long, right? And the one albatross has been hanging over this football team is the fact that they can't stop the run. But when you look at their schedule and you see teams that can run the football, man, you see a problem coming up on the horizon for the Buffalo Bills. And one of those, to me, the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know I'm a big fan of Kenneth Gainwell, and they can generate ways to run the football
Great
just
game
enough.
in Chicago.
Exactly. And so then you think about teams that people are probably already counting as a dub for them, but we know they can run the football. The Cleveland Browns can run the football, and they have a great defense we saw the Houston Texans provide an issue for the Buffalo Bills last Thursday night. So if you can run, the Eagles are still on their schedule. If you can run the football, it is a problem for Buffalo, and they could find themselves on the outside looking in because now you're competing, to you guys' point, you're competing with the Jags, you're competing with the Texans, you're competing with the Steelers. Who has, and then look at the rest of the teams in the playoffs right now. Defense is the mantra. Who has the best defense out of this 7? It ain't Buffalo, and that's where they're going to have to tighten things up right now. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves on the outside looking in.
It is high-stakes musical chairs, and the music set to stop on somebody sometime soon. Week 13, fast coming as you got 3 on the holiday on Thursday, another 1 on Friday.
He's still at plus 1,000.
We are on to the home stretch, and you know it matters. Once the Thanksgiving turkey's done, once the stuffing is all eaten, once the cranberry sauce is gone, real football on the way. And the shortest odds to win the Super Bowl, those Rams with another statement victory on Sunday night.
You put cranberry sauce on everything.
It's a condiment.
Dish.